Good morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Do you mind? I'll ask you about nuclear in a moment because I know that's an issue that means a lot to you. But just first, what do you make of the agreement at COP28 encouraging countries to move away from fossil fuels, to quickly ramp up renewable energy? Some countries, specifically low islands, Pacific nations, for example, say it doesn't go far enough. How do you feel about that final deal?
Oh, look, I think the final deal is far better than what Chris Bowen was proposing, because it provides sufficient flexibility for nations to map their own path to net zero, and the coalition believes in an all-the-above approach, which means individual nations like us need to develop those technologies that will work for our own country. So I think that's a good outcome. It really is pragmatism prevailing over ideology, and so that's good. I also know that the final communique promotes some of the technologies that the coalition believes in that Labor hasn't believed in, and that includes carbon capture and storage, so that you can abate fossil fuels, as well as it does include zero emissions nuclear energy.
I mean, is it ideological, though? I mean, people were saying that it simply wanted a concrete phasing out of fossil fuels. There was never a suggestion we weren't going to be seeing fossil fuels tomorrow. They just wanted a concrete deal to phase them out.
Well, look, the problem I had with where Chris Bowen was going into COP was he had misdiagnosed the problem of climate change. The core problem for us to tackle is emissions. We need to get emissions down.
You think Chris Bowen doesn't agree with that?
No, instead, Chris Bowen and Labor, they believe the core problem to solve is the existence of fossil fuels. The problem is not the technology, but rather the emissions they generate, which is why we need to be open-minded to technologies that drive those emissions down. That's the key, and I'm at least happy now that the communique has rejected the extreme position of Chris Bowen and now allows for some flexibility so that we can tackle the primary issue here.
Do you acknowledge, though, that fossil fuels are the main driver of climate change?
Absolutely, which is why you need to have abating technologies. That's the key.
Okay, so, and you've gone into what some of them are. However, can I just ask you about our Pacific neighbours, though? They're already living with the real impacts of climate change. Some of them very upset about this decision. In fact, we're hearing overnight some of them are concerned they were left out of the plenary room when the concluding deal was decided. Do you understand why some people might be upset about this?
Is that right? I actually wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
They had been left out. So, no, look, that's news to me. I think, these multilateral negotiations, often their communiques, reflect compromise and a high degree of ambiguity. But they have to be pragmatic. And if not, then it'll be a complete waste of time, right? So I think it's very rare in any of these situations that you have any country saying, well, I got exactly the wording I wanted. I personally am happy with where it's landed because it has rejected the very ideological position that Chris Bowen took into COP, a position that was very different, by the way, from what he was saying only a month ago. Only a month ago, he gave a big speech at CEDA here in Australia, promoting the importance of gas to electricity, manufacturing and industry. And literally weeks later, he's standing over in the United Arab Emirates saying that we don't need any more gas. And so there was a lot of confusion from Labor's side, but I think the world sorted it out. And so I'm glad we've now got a high degree of flexibility.
Well, as you say, the art of compromise, and I think, Chris Bowen probably be quick to say he's not the only one who went in with that mentality. But can I just ask you, though, about nuclear, though, because you used your COP visit to push for a nuclear future for Australia, and you told reporters the coalition wouldn't support tripling the world's renewable energy capacity as part of that COP pledge. Why?
Well, I actually didn't say that. What I said was that while I hadn't seen the final communique on the tripling of renewables, I had no problem with the world actually signing up to that. Nor do I have a problem with Australia signing up to that pledge for the world to triple renewables. However, what I said was I don't support Australia tripling its renewables within this decade, which is what the pledge says.
Why would Australia not do it, but you support the world doing it?
Well, the world has, let's say round figures, about 10% of its electricity mix, wind and solar. Australia has well over 30%. And so a tripling of Australia's renewables gives us all of our eggs in one basket, a renewables-only electricity grid. No other country is going down that path. I think it's highly dangerous, and it'll only lead to higher prices and a far more unstable grid in Australia. We believe, the coalition side, that renewables are going to play a really important role. They do today, they will in the future, but they can't do the job on their own. We need all of the above approach, which includes a mix of technologies.
Yeah.
And that's why I oppose the idea of Australia. You know, we basically triple our renewables. You know, you're basically saying that we have a completely renewables grid. Prices will skyrocket even further, it'll be more unreliable.
Forgive me, we've only got about a minute left before the news, so just what nuclear, that matters to you. I did tell you we discuss it, so why do you say that is in the best interest of Australia?
Yeah, it's what our friends and allies are doing. If we want to learn the lessons from overseas, those countries that are doing a better job than Australia are decarbonising. Australia's emissions are going up right now. Prices are some of the highest in the world, and our grid is unreliable. Whether it be the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, France, Japan, they are all saying nuclear needs to be part of the mix. It's not the silver bullet solution, but it can work in complement with renewables. And I think Australia should be considering this. There's no path to net zero without nuclear energy. That's John Kerry's view. That's Canadians' view. It's a UK view. And I think it is definitely should be Australia's view.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Ted. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, Tom.
Ted O'Brien, cheers. Shadow Minister for Climate Change and Energy there, Ted O'Brien, joining us after that COP28.